Okay, we're on Rockaway Parkway. It's a rainy day here in Canarsie. Got my buddy Tom.
How you doing, everybody?
Got the muscle. All right, so why are we over here today? Well, we are here to go look at 1931 Rockaway Parkway. And it is right over there on that corner where you see Lopez Beauty Parlor. To the right, we have the Canarsie Barbershop. Love that old sign. So why are we at 1931 Rockaway Parkway? Well, this is the former site of the Bamboo Lounge, a Lucchese hangout made famous in the movie Goodfellas. So let's talk about some of this history here. And we'll talk about some of the anecdotes and some of the stuff in Goodfellas and some of the stuff that, you know, may have been made just for the movie's sake. You know, we'll talk about a little bit about that. All right, so Tom.
Yep.
So this place was owned by a guy, it was run by a guy named Sonny Bamboo.
Right.
Now, Sonny Bamboo's real name was Angelo McConaughey. Now, before this is called the Bamboo Lounge, it's actually called Geffkens Bar. And I'll put up an ad for that bar from the 1950s. And somewhere in the late 1950s, it gets changed to the Bamboo Lounge. And I'm also going to put a picture of what the Bamboo Lounge looked like. And I want to give a shout out to a YouTube page that they haven't posted in a long time. And I got a picture of the Bamboo Lounge from this guy from a YouTube channel called We Love Canarsie. And he did a little video over here. And I'll put up that picture now so you guys can see that. So, in the book Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi, let's talk about how Henry Hill actually describes this place. What exactly was going on in this place. So, he talks about this place, and I'm quoting. Now, he talks about it being a supermarket for airport swag. A commodities exchange for stolen goods. So, if you wanted to come here and get clothing, fabric, cigarettes, seafood, all types of shit, you would come here to the Bamboo Lounge if you had connections. Now, another thing about this Bamboo Lounge, it was said that a lot of cops, a lot of politicians, and a lot of people would also hang out here. And it wasn't exactly a secret as to what was going on in this place. Okay? So, now, this was a place that they would hang out. Now, it was described as a place that would have potted palm tree plants. It would have zebra-striped bar stools, zebra-striped banquettes. Now, banquettes are like benches that you would place, you know, next to a wall. You could sit up against the wall on a bench. So zebra stripes, palm trees. It was like a real fancy little nightclub, restaurant, bar.
I always pictured it like a tiki bar or something.
Kind of like a tiki bar, yeah. And I'll put up pictures of like ads that I found in the newspapers where you can kind of see the inside of it. And I think you see kind of like tree things, but you don't really get a clear, good picture of it.
Right.
You know, but you do see it. I'll put up a bunch of ads that I found for this place.
Yeah.
There's some fake news online saying the Bamboo Lounge was like in Sheepshead Bay. It was not. This is the Bamboo Lounge right here. I have fact-checked it numerous times. And also, as I put up the Geffkens Bar, you can also see 1931 Rockaway Parkway. Okay, so let's talk about the movie Goodfellas. Let's talk about torching the Bamboo Lounge. Let's talk about Tommy DeSimone, played by Joe Pesci, you know, being here and, you know, beating the guy up, and the whole scene with Am I Funny? With Henry Hill, you know. So,
with the wine bottle.
Exactly. Now, I could not find any evidence of this place ever being burned down. Never. I couldn't find it.
That's just Hollywood.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what we do see in Nicholas Pileggi's book, Wise Guy with Henry Hill. So Henry Hill talks about doing things like that. Now, he talks about... Hold on. Let's give it a minute. Let this bus go by.
Public transportation.
Yeah. So, Henry Hill talks about doing stuff like that. Now, one in particular, he talks about Vito Vario, also known as Tutty, Paulie's brother, paying him to do jobs to torch supermarkets, to torch restaurants. And he describes it the same way that they did it in Goodfellas. where he would get sterno, he would hang toilet paper from the ceiling, attach it to the beams.
Right.
It's the same exact way you would see it in Goodfellas. So he talks about actually doing stuff like that, right? So we see that as something that was actually done. But, you know, in the movies, you got to attribute these things to certain characters in certain places, you know, to make it sexy and everything. That's fine, you know, whatever.
Right, but the thing is, in the movie, they put the Bamboo Lounge and they had that place burned down.
Right,
Why
now,
couldn't they just have some random...
Right, so as far as I know, this place was never burned down. I couldn't find any record of it. I had a record of it turning into a place called the Regis after it was the Bamboo Lounge.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was called the Regis. Now, also, we have the scene where the guy comes up to Joe Pesci in the movie and says, you know, you're not paying me, come on, this and that. And then he goes nuts, all the fucking money we spend in here. He breaks the thing over his head, and then the funny house scene ensues right after that.
Then he says he wanted me to christen his daughter or something.
Yeah. So I don't know.
He asked me to be his godfather.
Right, yeah. And then the whole thing, everyone's laughing. You really are a funny guy. Yeah. Now, Henry Hill talks about doing that as well. He talks about them doing shit like that.
Yeah.
So what he says in there is that they would go into these bars, right? And they would run up these bills. And then after a while, the owner would be like, hey, what's going on? You guys owe me money. And they would make a scene. They would curse him out, beat him up, throw him on the floor. They would make such a fucking scene to embarrass the guy.
Purposely.
Yeah, so then after that, the guy would know, okay, these guys are connected. They're probably wise guys. I shouldn't fuck around.
Right.
You know, and then the guy would figure, oh, they probably got the cops on the take too, so I'm not even going to go to the cops. You know what I'm saying? So after that, the guy would further be open to being extorted by these guys. So they would run up a tab. When the owner would go there, they would make a fucking scene. And then from there, the guy was open to being extorted.
Right.
Because
part of the shtick.
Right. And whether they ended up getting in on insurance jobs after guys did go broke, they probably did stuff like that.
Right.
But all these roles, you know, they were trying to paint Tommy DeSimone as a crazy guy. So I'm sure Tommy DeSimone did do stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. They said that he was actually crazier.
Yeah, they said he was actually crazier than he was in the movie. So they certainly did things like this. But in the movie, you know, you got to attribute these anecdotes to certain characters, and you got to take things from certain things, right? Yeah. So, you know, just so we clear all that stuff up.
Yes.
So once again, 1931 Rockaway Parkway, former site of the Bamboo Lounge. Right on the corner right now, it's Lopez Beauty Parlor. And we are in Canarsie. Yeah, so I think we gave a little history. I mean, obviously, this was a headquarters for these Vario guys. They were selling a bunch of illegal shit out of here. Obviously, they were involved in hijacking. I mean, this was a specialty. Yeah. So they would hijack, and, you know, a lot of shit would end up here, you know, probably in the basement.
Right.
You know, they would store all the shit, and people would come by looking for stuff.
Well, they touched on that in the movie, too. They touched on it, like, and people come in through the front door and out the back.
Right, stuff like that, or fur coats in the basement and all that shit like that. Yeah, definitely.
They showed it coming through the Bamboo Lounge.
Definitely. I think Copacabana was like he was coming through that. But there definitely is a scene where there's like fur coats in the kitchen or whatever, some shit like that, if I remember correctly.
The whole fuck you pay me scene.
Right. So I'll put up a picture again of what the Bamboo Lounge looked like. Thank you to the page We Love Canarsie on YouTube. Not sure what they're up to now. And I hope this little thing was informative. Let's walk across the street. We'll get a look of the building up close. And then we'll head out of here because we're going to go to a few spots today. Let's just wait. Sorry for the jump. All right, so let's cross over. So you could imagine back in the 60s, these guys hanging out here, coming on this block all hours of the night. Tommy DeSimone, Henry Hill, Burke, Vario, you know, the list could go on and on. Anthony Stabile, his brother, right here. Bamboo Lounge, 1931, Rockaway Parkway. All right, I will see you guys in a second. All right, everybody, we are still in Canarsie, continuing on this little Lucchese tour. And right now we are on Flatlands Avenue, specifically looking at that property right there. And we'll talk about that when these cars pass. So 9508 Flatlands Avenue, former location of Geffkens Bar, the Paul Vario headquarters, one of his headquarters, one of his mainstays for that crew. Now, I couldn't find a picture of it, but I did find on the 80s website, I have a picture of it from if you look to the left, I'll put it up. It's a picture that's taken, and you can see the sign Gefkens a little bit. I'm going to put that up. You could see it from a view from that side of the street. Fortunately, there's no front view that I could find. So, this was, like I said, a headquarters of Paul Vario and his crew. Now, this place was originally owned by a guy by the name of Frank Geffken. Now, Frank Geffken passes away in 1962. He's only 42 years old. I found a little article about him, and I guess they kept the name Geffkens. I'm really not sure if there was other Geffken family members that were involved with Vario, and maybe they just kept the name that way or something. But yeah, it was originally a guy by the name of Frank Geffken. He was the owner of this place. Now, Paul Vario, he's born in 1914. Now, he starts getting arrested. By the time he's 18, he's getting arrested for stripping cars, breaking into auto shops, stealing batteries, stealing shit. So he's already a criminal by the time he's 18. Stealing tires, stealing cars, shit like that.
A lot of auto crime.
A lot of auto shit, yeah. In 1937, actually, Paul Vario is arrested for rape. Yeah. Now, he would get a sentence for that of 10 to 20. He would appeal that. Actually, as he's in court for this, he's trying to, it's even in the newspapers, they're trying to intimidate witnesses. And, this is something they always fucking did. We're going to talk about that later. They're always trying to intimidate somebody, whether it be a cop or, a fucking witness, a lady, whatever it may be. So they were trying to intimidate the witnesses to this crime. So he would win an appeal in 1939, but by January of 1940, the sentence would be upheld and he would go away for this rape. Ultimately he would get out, and as we know, he becomes a capo. He's got this crew around him of these loan sharkers, these extortionists, these gamblers, these hijackers. You got guys like, Burke, Henry Hill, Tommy DeSimone, Al Diarco. Al Diarco was a Vario guy. You got Bruno Facciolo, who we'll talk about in a little bit as well, later on in this video.
He really took a liking to, I always heard that that he loved Henry Hill. He treated him like a son.
Right. We do hear that, but then you got people that are like, oh, that's nonsense. Henry was just an errand boy. Who the hell knows? I don't know.
I think really the only one that had love for him was probably Paul Vario.
Probably.
I don't think he was as close as they made it seem in the movie, that he was close to Jimmy Burke like that.
Right, they say that about Burke, right.
Yeah.
Now, I think that he was close to Vario, and we'll talk about why that probably is in a second also.
I know Jimmy Burke was close with Tommy DeSimone. I know they.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, they were like.
So, now that you mentioned DeSimone, let's talk about that. When DeSimone is killed, I believe in January of 79, I believe that's correct. According to Al Diarco, on that night, Al Diarco sees him here at Gefkens. He's dressed to the nines. He's got a suit. He's got like these diamond-encrusted cufflinks. So Tommy DeSimone comes here on the night, and he thinks that he's going to get made. Now, this wouldn't be his only stop, because after Al Diarco leaves here, he goes to a pizzeria owned by Bruno Facciolo, and he sees Bruno Facciolo there with P.D. Vario, Paul's son. They brought him to the pizzeria after Tommy DeSimone was here. So you could see Tommy DeSimone's dressed up. He's got the diamond rings. He's probably coming here to say hi to everybody. Yeah, I'm on my way to get made. It's kind of fucked up if you think about it. It's pretty foul. And when Al Diarco talks about it in the Capisi book, he mentions how fucked up it was, and it's he didn't kind of like the way they did it. If they would have just killed him, they could have just killed him. But I guess a lot of people didn't like him, and supposedly killed a made man, Billy Batts.
They said that Gotti was behind.
Gotti, yeah, he also killed Ronald Giroth.
Yeah.
So He's seen here at Geffkens, then he goes to the pizzeria. Then Vario and Facciolo take him to where he's going to get killed. And from what we know, what we hear, it was Gotti, Tommy Agro. These guys are supposedly, you know, we can talk about that whenever, but they're supposed to be involved in that hit, as far as we know. But they were taken, he was taken there by his friends, right?
His body was never found?
No, his body was never found. No. Some people think it's at the hole somewhere over there in Lindenwood, you know. Yeah.
So I think they just say that because it was a Gambino.
Yeah, it would make sense, right? So once again, Geffkens Bar. This was the headquarters here. And then another story about Geffkens. If you look in Wise Guy, there's a story of after Henry gets arrested for the drugs, Karen Hill, she comes over here to talk to Paulie. And Paulie says to her, I told Henry to stay away from these drugs. I told him. And then she says to Karen, Paul Vario says to Karen, I got to turn my back on him. And that happened right here at Geffkens. Now, in the movie, that's Henry Hill. Am I mistaken that Paulie says that to Henry Hill? I got to turn my back on you?
Paul says that to Henry Hill.
Right, but in the
he
book,
doesn't say it to Karen.
in the book,
yeah,
from what I see, it's actually Karen, because
went.
she had just left where Burke was like trying to get her into the sweatshop. So she says, no, I got to go, Jimmy, I got to go. You know, she gets out of the sweatshop.
Right,
That's true. But after that, she apparently comes here to 9508 Flatlands to talk to Paulie.
Well, it was said that, I think you know this too, but that Paul Vario was having an affair with Henry.
Yeah, it was
wife.
also said that he was having an affair, yeah, which is disgusting, but we don't have to talk about that.
Okay.
Now, another cool fact about this, in 1977, and I couldn't find much about what happened to these guys, this place was robbed in 77.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, by a guy by the name, two brothers, Nick and William Alexander. They came in here in 1977, and they pistol whipped the guy, I guess he was the bartender there, by the name of Harry Schweed. They pistol whipped him, and then it turned into a whole thing where the cops were chasing him around the neighborhood. Eventually, they found him in some guy's backyard. Some guy called the cops and said, there's a guy in my yard with a gun. Yeah. Now, I don't know what happened to those guys that robbed this place. I don't know if those guys knew what this place was. I could imagine that if they found these guys who did this, they probably would never be seen again.
Oh, they would disappear.
Now, forgive me, that's just a story that I'm sharing with you. I really don't know what came of that story. If anybody knows or remembers that, let me know. But I thought that was a cool little fact.
Yeah.
So this place was robbed in 77 by two brothers by the name of Nick and William Alexander, and I believe they were from Staten Island. So, yeah, so do I. So, yeah, Geffkens Bar. Now, in 1972, Paul Vario's Bargain Auto on Avenue D gets raided. Eugene Gold, district attorney, puts a tap in there, and they tap the trailer there. This is, I think, in April of 72, and then by like October, November, they take a bunch of guys down. Now, how did they know that Avenue D was one of the headquarters? Well, according to them, they would stake out Geffkens Bar over here on Flatlands, and they started following guys, and they were noticing that these guys were going to the Bargain Auto Junkyard on Avenue D. And that's how they kind of figured, okay, well, I guess this place is another Lucchese spot, is another Vario spot. That makes perfect sense. So, I think...
they staked out the place.
Exactly. So, and then they started noticing the guys were going to Bargain Auto. So that's where we're going to go next. We're going to go to Bargain Auto on Avenue D. And we're going to check out the property right there now, which they found out, once again, was something going on through following guys that were hanging out here at Geffkens Bar at 9508 Flatlands Avenue. All right, guys, we will see you in a second. All right, so quick change of plans before we get over to Avenue D. We just stopped a few blocks away on Flatlands. For good reason, though, right? I said for good reason.
That's true.
All right, guys, so I want you to look across the street over there. I'm going to turn my camera that way. Specifically the address of, you see where it says ABM Brokerage Corp? Okay, next door to that Specifically that address of 9114. All right? That is the former location of the Walnut Bar. Vic Amuso's headquarters, bar owned by Bobby Amuso, his brother. That right there was where it was.
The unique family.
Where it says Unique Family Medicine. Now, once again, I don't have a straightforward photo of this. I have a side angle photo from that way, which I'll put up, and you could see kind of the Walnut Bar sign. So that's where it was right there. That was Vic Amuso's headquarters. Vic Amuso obviously becoming the boss in 1986 after Tony Ducks goes down. It was going to come down to either Casso or Vic. Casso kind of wanted to stay low, you know. And at that time, you know, Vic and Casso knew each other for a while. I mean, over a decade at that point. In 1972, they're actually arrested for a scheme where they were paying off parole officers and correction officers to get people out early on parole. So they had this crazy fucking scheme where they were paying these guys off. Wow. So they get arrested in 72 for that. And then later in like 77, they get arrested for, I think, something like $750,000 worth of heroin. I mean, these guys are fucking nuts. I mean, you guys know the history of these fellas. The bloodshed, the murder, killing the old regime. You know, just, that's why he got the nickname the Violent Don from one of those prosecutors, I believe, or a district attorney called him the Violent Don. Now, how violent was he? Was he as bad as Casso? Would he have been as bad if Casso was not around? I don't know.
I would say he was more like the voice of reason when it came to...
Maybe, yeah.
Well,
you
also
know.
Crazy, but the voice of...
Yeah, I don't know. Not many
ones.
people are as crazy as Casso was. So yeah, just a quick stop because it hit me in the head that this is where the Walnut Bar was. You know, we're going to look at something cool up the block too. Also, when I was reading Al DiArco's book, he talks about coming here. And this is where he gets word that Paul Vario is very sick. And Amuso tells him, listen, you're taking over the Canarsie crew after Vario dies. And eventually, you know, that happens. DiArco takes over the Canarsie crew. He takes over Vario's guys. So yeah, right here, actually, what is it? 5 blocks from Geffkens, right? It's right up the block.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So right there, that's where the Walnut Bar was. So, the Violent Don, Vic Amuso, and Gas Pipe. Gas Pipe was over on 86th at the 9th hole at that point. That was kind of his place. You know, they had a bunch of places, but this was really Bobby Amuso and Vic's spot right here. Now, I want to show you something really cool. We're going to go to the corner here. We're going to show you something. All right. So for you guys who are fans of like looking at, like we are, we love to look at old FBI surveillance photos, and we like to look at, you know, what was going on at that time. There's a decent amount of Lucchese photos at that time too. You know, during that era of the 1980s, there's no shortage of
there's a ton of
Lucchese surveillance photos.
Old FBI pics,
Right. Now, one of those FBI photos is actually shot right over here, and it is Vic Amuso and Sammy the Bull Gravano. Gravano's leaning up against the fence, and he's talking to Vic Amuso, and that photo is taken. I'm going to say that photo is taken about right here. About right here. And I'm going to put the photo up of that. Let's wait for these cars to pass. I don't want to make believe we're...
It's a really well-known photo, too.
Yeah, it's a famous photo. It's definitely a famous shot. For those who know, you certainly have seen it. And I guess it's taken from like a FBI van or something like that. So that photo is taken from this angle right over here. And I'm going to put up that photo right now so you can see the fire hydrant. You can see the fence. Sammy's leaning up against that fence right there. And he's talking to Vic Amuso. That photo was taken right there. And you see that store right there. Then it had all that graffiti on it and everything. But that photo was taken right there. So that's kind of cool, right? Pretty cool. Right there. All right. So just a quick stop. Just wanted to show you where the Walnut Bar was in case anybody was ever wondering. So we got a couple of more spots today. There it is, the Walnut Bar, where that blue and yellow is. And once again, that's where that photo was taken of Sammy the Bull Gravano and Vic Amuso. Vittorio Amuso. All right, so I think now we'll head over to Avenue D. We got a couple of spots over there. And yeah, let's head out. Okay, we are on Avenue D, continuing on our Canarsie Lucchese tour. We got a trailer here with some generator. I don't know what's going on. Okay. On the streets of Canarsie. And we're going to 5702 Avenue D, which is coming up right here. It's on our left, actually. Let's get the address. I always like to see the address. You know, some people say, like, they used to say I would like talk too much and get too into the details of the address. I'm just obsessed. Like, I gotta know the exact address. I gotta know that I'm at the right place, and if the buildings change, I want to know that things are looking different. You know, all that shit. So, sorry if I'm obsessed, but all right, cool, awesome. Look at this. 5702 Avenue D. Can we get a peek in there? Not really. This is the former location of the Bargain Auto. This was Paul Vario's Junkyard, where he had a trailer over here. Let's go across the street, because I'm going to put a picture up of Bargain Auto, what it looked like. And we'll juxtapose that image to here. All right, so right there, Bargain Auto, and we'll put up a picture also. All right, so we talked about being at Geffkens, and we talked about them following them to this junkyard. So, and I believe April of '72, they bugged this junkyard. They bugged Paul Vario's trailer.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about what they did to get the bug here, because it's pretty fucking crazy. It's right out of a movie, and I'll put up the newspaper article. There's actually a little funny cartoon they did in the thing too. Yeah. So what happens is they're scoping this place out, and they notice that there's this guy that's like watching it. He's like a guard at night or whatever it is. And then there's like this crazy dog that's on the property also. So after watching it, they notice that the guy slips out, and he usually goes away to get a couple of drinks, or, you know, he's messing around probably, whatever. So they use that opportunity to go in there, right? So they get in there. These guys are specialties. You know, obviously they're officers, but they have specialties. They can break into places. They can plant bugs. They're really skilled. Oh, you know, they have carpenter skills. You know, they're just full-faceted dudes, you know? Like ninjas. Yeah, if they weren't cops, they would probably be great criminals. You know what I'm saying? So they get in here, and they meet the dog, and apparently the dog jumps on one of them, but they brought a stake with them. So they wave the stake, like right out of a fucking movie. They wave the stake, and the dog then goes to the stake. So they break in, they tap the trailer and all that other stuff. So they trap the trailer from like April to like October, November is when they kind of bust this place up. Yeah. And after they raid this place and make arrests, they're serving over 600 subpoenas in connection to this. The boss at the time, Carmine Tremonti, he gets brought in. And he gets indicted also with this. They hear him on the phone making calls to Vario, talking about going to talk to this guy, go talk to that guy, all this other stuff. And obviously everything else that they hear on this with hijackings, you know, everything that these guys were involved in. So they hand out like 600 subpoenas. Now, another interesting thing about this is they even say that like 100 different police officers visited this place. So you have all the cops on the take. Everybody's corrupt, you know. They're all coming to here. Everything's corrupt. They're getting cops busted up in this. And obviously Vario at the time, you know, he was, you know, with the gambling operations, they were assuming that his gambling operation was like something in the realm of like $30 million a year. Like it,
just the gambling.
Yeah, it was crazy. So what these guys are up to. So once again, Bargain Auto, 5702 Avenue D. Now Vario would be in trouble for this. He would get in trouble for stuff to do with interstate shipment, hijacking, After he's convicted, he'd get convicted of other stuff. Once we talked about before, you know, like with the rape charge he caught, he's tried to intimidate the witness. He tried to pay off a detective to infiltrate, you know, the office. Now, what they called this, forgive me, I should have mentioned before, they called it the Gold Bug, because Eugene Gold was the district attorney at the time, and he was the guy that was behind this. Yeah, so they ended up calling it the Gold Bug, which is kind of cool. It's a little cool name. So he tried to get a detective to infiltrate, you know, the gold offices and like, oh, let me know what's going on over there. He got busted up for that.
They always come up with funny names for their operation.
Yeah, they always come up with cool names. Yeah, so he got busted for that. Then after that, like a month later or less, he's going to get in trouble again because they find out that he's in an insurance job for, it was something to do with a boat where they would strip a boat. They stripped some kind of boat and then, you know, they would get rid of the boat, you know, fuck it up, try to get insurance money, which they did out of it. So he got in trouble for, and after that, he gets convicted again for the insurance job for that shit, right? So a lot of guys were going down due to this gold tap that was over here, all right?
They got him real good just on this one.
Yo, for sure, for sure.
Now, let me just ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Where exactly does it start?
Yeah, so
is it this entire?
Yeah, so 5702 being the main address. I'm guessing it's this entire piece right here.
From here, like the whole block, pretty much.
Pretty much, you know, maybe where it says Bagels right there on the corner, that might not have been the property, but it's essentially right here, and I'm going to put the photo up in the video.
Yeah,
so
this whole area right here.
You know, in 73, Vario goes to jail for tax evasion. He'll do 6 years for that. But a bunch of guys got brought down for this, and it was a huge thing. Also, what's cool about this story too, if you see there's a school behind us, it's the Nazareth School, I believe it's called, right? And cops were up on these roofs actually, of these schools.
Really?
Yeah, they were getting surveillance photos from up on these roofs here, on that roof there, and then over there as well. And another thing as well, what was happening was, so after school, you would have a bunch of kids hanging out in this schoolyard here, right?
Yeah.
So when the reporters came here, you know, because it was a huge story. They thought that it would obviously do more damage than it did. I mean, this is 72, so we know the history after that. Didn't do much damage. I mean, you know, I'm sure guys got fucked over for this, and it really put a dent in things, but it didn't essentially do what they really wanted it to do because really nothing slowed down. But it was certainly a bump in the road, and it put the Lucchese's under a microscope for sure, and the whole 5 families. Now, as I was saying, there was kids in these schoolyards behind us, and they started talking to them. And these young teenage kids, they were like, yeah, we always knew something was funny about that place. They were talking about, yeah, we always see like these fancy Cadillacs pulling in here. Yeah. And one kid was like, yeah, I once saw a Cadillac pull in, and it came out a few minutes later looking different. Like it would have different tires, different things. So
the kids are snitching.
Yeah, the kids are like dry snitching. You know, they were like dry snitching, you know, or straight up snitching, basically. Yeah, just telling about their experience. So you could imagine like reporters coming over here, talking to the kids, and, you know, they're saying, yeah, you know, there's something a little weird about that place. You know, it's a shitty junkyard. But for some reason, there's always these fancy cars coming in and out of it.
It must have been something to grow up around that time.
It must have been crazy, man. And I hope people,
like
and sometimes I do get the, you know, old school Canarsie people commenting on my videos. I love that. I hope more people do that. And maybe you guys remember this. Forgive me, I don't have a rundown of everybody that was brought down in this. You know, like I said, they served 600 subpoenas. Tremonti got caught up in this. Vario got caught up in this. Of course, his son, his brothers. You know, so it was a really big thing. But this is where it was, 5702. This was the location of the Gold Bug in Paul Vario's trailer when the cops busted in here and gave the dog a steak. So they,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and also what they were saying was they had like thousands of photos that they took, over 1 million feet of tape from the bugs, thousands of hours of, you know, oh my God, they had so much, because you're talking about like 4 months of knowledge, and these guys don't think they're being, you know, they're in their safe place, so to speak. He's in his trailer,
right. But
they managed to get in here, man. Where there's a will, there's a way.
So
you know.
Would you say that this was like the beginning of the end for the?
No, because this was 1972.
Oh.
Like I said before, yeah. So these guys, you know.
Yeah, they were still up and running.
You know. But, anything else? Let's see. I don't know. We got another spot to go to. That's for sure. And we're going to go there. It's also on Avenue D. And it's a place that I've been to in one of my other videos. And we're going to go there now. And that's when I will see you again. Once again, 5702 Avenue D. Former home of Paul Vario's Bargain Auto Junkyard. Which was raided at the end, I believe, October or November of 72. And yeah. All right, guys. Stay tuned. All right, guys, still in Canarsie. So we're on Avenue D, but right now we're on Foster, heading to Avenue D. Does this look familiar to anybody? Well, if you follow my channel, you know that I did the DeMeo video, where it begins, where it ends. And you know that right over here on East 89th was Patty Testa's garage. Now, I'm gonna put the specs of this building up like I did in that video so you could see that we have these East 89. This is like a triangular kind of building here. We have these addresses on East 89th, and then we have Avenue D addresses too that are different. So Patty Testa's garage being right here. Rest in peace, Roy. Okay. Right here where Roy met his demise. So.
Right here.
Yeah. Now, listen, I went into clearly why I believe that is and why many people believe that is. And I've spoken to other people that are kind of close to the situation. And yep, that's what they say as well. So you can come at me with the Patty Testa house shit, but I'm not going to entertain that. So, yeah, we're going to Avenue D and we're going to turn to the left. And then I'll tell you exactly why we are here on Avenue D. Once again, in this building. Let's look both ways like good boys. We got a car coming here. This is a fun video so far, huh?
Oh, yeah.
We're getting like a real tour of Canarsie, all these Lucchese spots.
I know I'm having a blast.
Yeah. Alrighty. So let's cross over. Oh, not yet. Okay, buddy. Hey.
Legal turn there, bud.
Thank you. He gave us the my bad sign. It's all right.
We'll let him go.
Yeah. You know, when you drive, people do dumb shit, but if they give you the wave, like, you're like, ah, all right.
Yeah,
It's okay. It's okay. You acknowledge that you did something dumb.
you get a pass.
I could give you a pass. So, okay. So we got this little shopping center here. BJ's. All right. So let's turn around and I'll tell you why we're here. Okay. Right over here where you see these blue gates on Avenue D. This is the former club of Lucchese, made man, old school mobster, Bruno Facciolo. This was where his club was here on Avenue D. All right, right here. His club was right there. Now let's talk a little bit about Bruno. Very successful mobster. Had his hands in a lot of things, made a lot of money. He had a brother named Louis that was with the Gambinos, and his niece, Louis' daughter, I believe, was Carla Facciolo on Mob Wives, if that interests anybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, let's see. What was Bruno into? Loan sharking, gambling. He was running card games out of this spot. Gambling, loan sharking. He owned a pizzeria. He owned a jewelry shop. He owned a stable. He owned restaurants. He had his hands in everything. And then I mentioned him before that he took Tommy DeSimone to his death. Bruno took Tommy DeSimone to his death. And he also didn't really go to jail. He wasn't a guy that was in prison a lot. He had a lot of legit businesses and a lot of things going on. He did get arrested in the early 70s with Peter Vario. Now, they had a scam. They had a scam where they were trying to fix harness races. Yeah, they were trying to fix horse races. He would get acquitted of that. Now, right here also, it would be the location. Now, after Al Diarco becomes a made man back in 1982, a few days after, they throw a big party over here. Made men only, you know, wives and stuff. He says there was a big spread, pasta, lobster, all types of shit.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
Sounds like a good time.
So that's the kind of stuff that would go on here. Card games, all types of shit like that. Now, in August of 1990, Bruno Facciolo would be killed. This is the paranoid psychopath years of Gas Pipe and Amuso. So they had got intel from the mafia cops. Louis Eppolito, Stephen Caracappa, that Bruno Facciolo was a rat. Now at the time, according to Al Diarco, Bruno Facciolo had been a made man for over 20 years. So he was probably made sometime, could have even been in the 60s sometime, or in the 70s, he was a made man. So as far as when he died in 1990, he had been a made man for over 20 years, and the mafia cops have said that he was a rat. That has never been proven. Nothing has ever been proven to say that he was a rat. It seems to be bad information. Looking back in history, I'm sure people have various opinions on that. So, but once again, paranoia.
Yeah.
So, you know, on August 24th of 1990, he meets with Louis Didon. Louis Didon, also known as Louis Bagels.
Yeah.
He was a Lucchese guy. He had interest in a bagel shop in Howard Beach. He meets up with Louis Didon. Louis, I believe, says something to the effect that they have to meet so he can introduce them to a made man, or some bullshit story. And basically, he's led to his death. They go to a garage on McDonald Avenue where Frank Lastarino is waiting and Richie Pagliarulo is waiting. Now, Frank Lastarino is free today. A lot of people wonder why, because he's involved in so many fucking hits for the Lucchese's. Particularly the hit of Patty Testa, which also occurred right around the corner there where we just were. Patty Testa was killed in that garage.
Oh.
Yeah, he comes in with a fedora and like a black coat, and he's screaming and cursing, making a scene, and he blasts Patty Testa. Another hit which is fueled by paranoia from Casso and these guys. Because Patty Testa was really loyal to these guys. He was supplying them cars when they were on the run. He was passing messages. He was a really integral part of them being on the lam at that time in 1990, 91, all that time when they were on the lam.
Yeah, right.
So Patty Testa gets killed eventually by Lastarino, just a side note. So what happens is Facciolo gets in there and he gets paranoid. And he starts running away. Eventually they grab him. They end up stabbing him. They shoot him a bunch of times. They throw him in the trunk, and Louis Didon places a canary in his mouth. And that's how they find him, in his trunk. Shot up, rotting with a canary in his mouth because they thought he was a rat. Yeah. So this is just all crazy history. But this is where his club was, right here on Avenue D. Like I said, big money maker, card games, gambling. Now this is a good story. You're going to love this story.
Okay.
Check this out. So this story comes from Al Diarco in the book. The guy that started Starbucks, Schultz,
Right.
grew up in Canarsie.
The guy from Starbucks.
He ran for president at one point, Schultz.
It's based out of, isn't Starbucks?
Well,
based
Seattle and all that
right.
shit.
Yeah, right.
According to Al Diarco,
Right.
before all that, when he was just kind of getting into the coffee business,
Yeah.
he would come here and do card games. He was fucking hanging out here. And I think Diarco said that he would always talk about coffee stuff, starting a business. He would try to sell coffee filters. And he would be all involved with these guys playing cards over here. And eventually he makes his way to start, you know, Starbucks and all that other shit.
So the mob could have funded Starbucks.
According to Al Diarco, nobody got involved with him.
Yeah.
According to Al Diarco, you know, he
okay.
makes a joke, I think, in the book. I should have, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the guy that
They
started
missed out.
Starbucks, Schultz, used to play card games here with these fucking mobsters.
Wow.
Facciolo, all these Lucchese guys, whoever was here. He had guys around him like Ray Argentina, you know. He had definitely had some hitters around him. And unfortunately, like I said, he was killed in 1990. And forgive me, I don't know where that garage was on McDonald Avenue, or else we would take a visit there. Now, Louis Didon, who kills him, you know, he goes to jail in the early 90s. He goes to jail for life. He goes down for this murder. The early 2000s. I believe like 2002-ish. Louis Didon goes to jail for life for this murder and a murder of a guy by the name of Red Gilmore, who he killed. So he's in jail for life right now. Lastarino is actually free right now. He went to jail. Nothing to do with murder. I think he did like 14 years. So right now he's a free man. And he is involved in numerous murders for gas pipe in the Lucchese's.
So he took
Wild
part in
stuff. Oh my God, a lot of stuff. Yeah, for sure. Bobby Borriello, Patty Testa. You got the one we just spoke about, Bruno Facciolo. In the car, we were speaking about the Heidel murder.
Right.
From what I hear, he's the one that grabbed up Heidel with Joey Testa and brought him to the place for gas pipe to shoot him.
Where they tortured
him, shot him. Maybe I shot him 15 times or whatever the hell he says in that Ed Bradley interview. So Lacerino was a major hitter, not a good person whatsoever. Serious gangster, did a lot of work, and I'm not here to judge. He should probably be sitting somewhere else, but you know. So once again, over here on Avenue D, now these addresses account for the 88s. You got 88, 16, 14, 12, all these addresses here. And coincidentally, as you mentioned, it's in the same triangular little complex here where Patty Testa's garage was. So once again, Avenue D, Bruno Facciolo's old club and headquarters over here. You want to get a card game, you want to start a Starbucks company, you come here, you get a couple of bucks, you know, and then start doing some Pike's Place roast.
Avenue D, baby.
Avenue D, yeah. So, yeah, it was right over here. Yeah, so let's take a walk. We'll go back to East 89th. We'll get another peek over there of Testa's old spot. And then we'll call it a day. We'll end this video. Bit of a rainy day, but I think it was cool.
Yeah, oh yeah. It adds to it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A little smog in the air.
A little smog, a little
adds a little mystique.
Yeah, me and Tommy, we're still gonna do our Hell's Kitchen video. We spoke about that once. We're gonna go over to Hell's Kitchen.
Yep.
We're gonna do a little Westies video over there. That'll be fun. There's no shortages of locations over there. All right, walking back on the East 89th. Let's get a look down Avenue D again. We got some of the sun coming up now. Here we go. All right, walking past here, past Testa's old garage.
Where Roy DeMeo was.
And Testa. And Patty Testa right here. Testa, I believe in 92. I believe 92 or 93 that happened. And they say, you know, in the papers, we didn't know it was Lacerino at the time, but they talk about a guy coming up from Foster in a fedora hat and a black, and then he comes in screaming, "Ah, fucking mother!" Starts shooting, you know.
Now, when Roy DeMeo was killed here, do you know exactly, like, was it at the opening of the garage door or something?
Yeah, so I have a layout of this building for the addresses.
Right.
And so where Patty Testa's, it's going to be this garage here to the end over there, which would be the address. So it would be this strip right here.
It would be like right here.
Yeah, it would be like where this garage starts to the end. It would account for where his garage was.
Wow.
Now I went over it in that video. They assumed that, you know, they had shot him here, and then they had dragged him, you know, into the car, because they say that his shirt was like dragged up above like his neck or whatever. So they assumed that they had dragged him to get him into the car, and he had defense wounds on his hands, like he was trying to block the gun and stuff like that.
Right, I remember hearing that. And I know everybody probably knows this, but they found a chandelier over him.
Yeah, that was something, I think it was like his wife or his house. Yeah, it had nothing to do. Yeah, it had nothing to do with those guys. Like, it wasn't like a sign of anything.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think it was just like, it just happened to be in the trunk and they just put it back.
And then he was found, I know you covered this on another video, I'm just...
at the Vario Boat Club in Sheepshead Bay.
At the boat club, right.
Yeah.
That's where he was found.
Yeah, on a cold January night.
Trunk
yeah.
of a car, right.
Correct. And
it's just interesting.
I actually filmed that video on the same day that he was found, I believe.
Wow.
I think it was January...
Anniversary?
Yeah, I think January 20th was the day that I did that, or the 10th, the day that they had murdered him, because he sat in the trunk for 10 days.
Didn't they do it like so he'd be frozen or something like
that?
that?
Yeah, he was like frozen like a rock. Yeah, because it was freezing, and he sat in there for 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So they figured the 10th he was left there, and by the 20th they towed the car to on Flatbush Avenue, the Highway Patrol unit over there. Yeah, but it would have been right here, and as I mentioned in the video, they take his leather jacket and they wrap around his head, you know, Gemini method style.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man.
So, yeah, so let's, that's it, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's go get a look down Foster Avenue. And Foster's, Australian for beer. So we'll get a nice look down Foster, and then we'll call it a day. I think this was great. I think this worked out really well.
Oh yeah.
A Lucchese tour of Canarsie.
Nice Sunday fun day.
Yeah, and the sun's coming out. Sun is coming out. All right, everybody. You guys have a beautiful week coming up ahead. As always, thank you to my subscribers, everyone that likes, everyone that leaves comments. 99% of the comments are great. A couple of trolls here and there, but you know, that's cool. That's all right. Tommy, thanks for coming with me. This was great.
Always a pleasure.
This was great. I needed some serious muscle, and Tommy was the guy.
It's always nice to be here.
Yep. All right, everybody. See you on the YouTube.